Hello guys, welcome to another episode of the Beginner's Guide series. And in today's video, we will be talking about stem plants. We all one of the biggest mistake that I've seen a lot of, let's say, beginners do when it comes to planting the stem plant is that they are planting the whole stem. Everything that they buy from the shop, they just plant it directly into the tank. So this is what we should do when you buy a long stem plant. Let's just say this is the stem plant that you bought from the shop, and this is the immersed from. This is about 10 centimeter. If you buy the submerged from, sometimes it can be like 15 centimeter or more. But let's just say this is the length of the stem plant that we buy. What you should do is that you arrange the stem plant from the top, from the head, and then you just cut them like 3 to 4 centimeters. So this part should be like 3 to 4 centimeters. Just cut them this way. I will explain to you what should you do on this part. But now this is the length of the stem plant that you should use to plant to your tank, which is about 3 to 4 centimeters. So what you should do next, or what I usually do next, is that I will be plucking off the first few leaves from the bottom, like this. So I will usually do this for a few reasons. First of all, it will be making the planting process a lot easier, because without the obstructing leaf on the bottom, the planting will be a lot smoother and it will prevent floating. The second reason is that we all know that all this leaf is going to be embedded into the soil, and they are also useless. And once it is in the substrate, they will be rotten, and that will create some unnecessary biomass in the tank, and it could potentially cause some algae issue. But of course, if you are planting like 50, 100 pots of stem plant, to manually pluck all this away, it is a big job. So I would say that, well, it is recommended to do so, but it is not a must. I think it is advisable, but if you don't do it, I would say it won't be a disaster as well. So this is what I will always do. First of all, cutting them into like 3 to 4 centimeter, and then just roughly pluck off the first few leaves from the bottom. So this is what happened after the cutting of the 3 to 4 centimeter and plucking off the bottom leaves. These are ready for planting. And yeah, don't forget to put the standby stem plants into, let's say, some water to keep them moist, otherwise they'll be drying up. Or you can also keep them in plastic bag just to make sure that they stay fresh. Now let's start our planting process. Knowing that one of the very critical criteria when it comes to stem plant is that we want them to become bushy. So I think planting them stem by stem this way, it is not very effective, because every pot or every spot that we planted is only one stem. So if we have the objective or the target to make them more bushy, planting them stem by stem, one by one, it is actually not the best way. The best way to plant a stem plant is either 2 stems at once, like this, or you can even do it 3 stems at once, like this. This is 3 stems at once. So by doing so, every single spot that we planted is with 3 stems. This is a 2 stems, and this is 1, 1, 1. So comparing this, I would say that planting them 2 or 3 stems, it is better, because it will give us a more bushier stem plant thicket when it is, let's say, fully grown in. You might ask, what about planting them 4 or 5 stems at once, like this? So this is 4 stems. Well, I would say that it is still okay, but I would not advise it, because if you are planting them too dense, like 4 or more stems together, they will be competing for a lot of stuff. Like they will be competing for lighting, because when it is getting too dense, some of the stem might not get enough light. Also, they will be competing with each other on nutrients. Because the soil here, if you're planting them too dense together, they are competing among themselves for nutrient. So I would not plant them 4 stems at once. I would do it 3 or 2. I think that is the best way to go. Another one of the biggest mistake when it comes to planting of stem plant that a lot of beginners do is planting them only one row. So I've seen many, let's say even a final photo where the stem plant is fully grown, but they are only one single row. So in this case, in the final photo, the stem plant will look very miserable. It's like very thin. You don't get a very bushy stem plant. It is like a very thin layer, and it is looking very bad and very laggy. You can see the light shining through and all this. So we should never plant stem plant only with a single row. Instead, this is the one that you should do. So this should be the correct way to plant your stem plant in multiple rows. Either, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 rows, depending on your tank size and the space that you have. The important message is that always plant them in multiple rows and not just one single row. So like this, after a few times of trimming and once the scape is matured, you will get a very nice, bushy, thick thicket of stem plant. A simple rule of thumb is that this distance should be, I would say, minimum 5 to 10 centimeters, depending on your tank size. So you should always have this stem plant thicket of, let's say, 5 to 10 centimeters if you want to have a very nice stem plant in your final photo. Never only plant one single row, but multiple rows. So another tricks when it comes to planting of stem plant is the position or the location of planting. So in this area here, now I'll show you 2 examples, the left side and the right side. Let's look at the left side. In the left side, the stem plants are planting in the straight line, one followed by the other in a straight line. I would say this method is less effective. Why? Because we are leaving an empty space in between here. So in the event that the trimming is not, let's say, not good enough sometime, or the branching or the multiplication is not, let's say, effective enough, you might see some empty area in between here, and here, because all the stem plants are planting in a straight line, leaving this area empty. While if you are looking at the right side here, I'm planting the second row in the middle of these 2. For example, this stem plant is planted in the middle of these 2. And this stem plant is planted in the middle of these 2, and so on. So in this case, I have better chance of making sure that there is no empty space when you take the photo from the front. If you take the photo from the front, if there is any empty space here, you'll be blocked by this one. If there is any empty space here, you'll be blocked by this one. Compared to the left side, there is nothing to block the empty space here because it is empty. Whereas here, you always have something that is blocking some potential empty space. And let's say if I want to plant the third row, I will be planting this way. The third row will be planting here. The third row will be like this. So this will be my third row. So for example, this one, I'm planting in the middle of these 2. This one, this stem, I'm planting in the middle of these 2. So it is more or less like a zigzag kind of planting to make sure that all the space are covered. Unlike this one, this area will not be covered. And when it comes to the distance between the stem, I usually do not have a very specific rule. I will actually plant them as close as possible. But I would say a rule of thumb is, let's say, keep it to, let's say, 1 centimeter. So this distance between the two stems, it should not be more than 1 centimeter. If you can keep it to, like, I don't know, five or half a centimeter, 5 millimeter, that would be also fine. So, but a rule of thumb is like keep it, let's say, around 1 centimeter. I think you'll be fine. Okay, I hope you have learned some tricks of planting of the stem plant. If you remember, at the beginning of the video, I told you that we should cut the stem plant to 3 to 4 centimeter and plant this part, the crown, the head part. And I promise you to tell you what happened to the balance. What I'm going to tell you now, maybe it is not a welcoming message to a lot of shops or, let's say, plant farm that are going to sell you stem plant, because don't throw away this part. It can be planted as well. Let's say if you're buying a stem, whether it is submerged or immersed, and you cut off the top part to plant, and if you have some budget constraint and you can't buy too many pots, I know sometimes it can get very expensive. So plant this portion, and this balance portion, depending on how long, you can cut them and plant them as well. They will grow, regardless whether it is submerged or immersed. This is something that a lot of shops may not want you to know. But you have to, let's say, remember one thing, don't plant them upside down. So because after you cut off the head, sometimes you can get easily confused whether you should plant it this way or this way. So if you are planning to plant this part, you have to make sure which is the top and which is the bottom. And the same thing, you just take away some of the leaf at the bottom section, like this, and you can plant them this part without the head even to your tank, and they will grow. I promise. So you never hear it from me. Don't tell anybody. This is the secret among us. So this is the part 1 of the stem plant on the beginner's guide series. I'll be discussing with you in the next part 2 video on the trimming of the stem plant. I hope you like this video. Bye-bye.